Our third panel discussion of the day explores the captivating intersection of arts and creative industries. Hong Kong's emergence as a creative and an international innovation hub presents incredible opportunities for collaboration. Our panelists will discuss the current opportunities, challenges, and trends in the arts and creative sectors in Hong Kong. They will also explore potential areas for collaboration between Hong Kong and other jurisdictions. Now, without further ado, let's introduce our distinguished panelists for the next session. Our moderator is Ms. Sabrina Low, Features Editor at Tatler Hong Kong. Joining her on stage are Dr. Florence Chung Lin, founder of Tian Art Foundation and the Conservatory of International Style and Culture Arts, who has flown especially from Beijing for our summit today. We also have Ms. S. Alice Mong, President of Asia Society Hong Kong. And Professor Jillian Choi, Director of the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts. Thank you, all of you.
All right, thank you very much, Derek. Welcome all to the closing panel, which is about arts and culture. And I'm super happy to be here today with, so many talents here and leaders as well. And our topic today is going to be about how are Hong Kong's arts and creative industries working to create a future for the city's cultural development and international status. Now, before the opening of this panel, I was just going to say, I was chit-chatting with Alice. I was just asking, I'm curious about, how many students here, sitting here today, are going to be pursuing an arts degree. And I'm not going to be asking for a show of hands right now, but hopefully after listening to this panel, maybe you can gain some insights from the latest trends of the arts industry and creative industries. And I suppose I would love to start the panel by sort of like getting an overview of what's happening in the culture scene and art scene right now. Maybe each of you can give me sort of like your field of expertise and your insights into that.
Thank you. Thank you, Serena. I'm really delighted to be here, and I want to thank the Wall Foundation for organizing such a great. I'm so happy to see so many students here, and by the way, I'm going to be recruiting you. So seriously, I will be. But I think what's really exciting now for me, I think we're the beginning of the Art Week, and next week I know there will be 2 art fairs. There's a cultural summit, a lot of stuff going on. And I think, the arts and cultural sector, and there's a tech component to it, is booming in Hong Kong. And not just Hong Kong, I think in this region, China, all of Asia. I know, Team Lab has an installation that's going to be on Tamer, on all of that. So I personally feel, that's one of the reasons I came back from New York 12 years ago, is that I feel the arts and cultural sector is going to grow tremendously, and rightly so. Asia Society we opened 12 years ago, our new center, even though we've been around since 1990. Then subsequently you saw Daigun, Central Police Station, many of you been to Daigun, PMQ, M+, Palace Museum. So the government as well as the community have been investing in the hardware of the arts and cultural sector. And then lately, we've been adding the tech component to it, which is, and the universities have definitely been playing a role in that. So I think it's really a dawn of a new day, and that's why this summit is this meeting is so important for us to show young people the opportunity. Yes, there's going to be challenges, but I think with challenges, there's going to be exciting opportunity, and the gateway. I think we talked about, in fact, to death about the role of Hong Kong as the superconnector in East and West, whatever. We've heard it all before, but I think the reality when it comes to the arts and cultural sector, I think Hong Kong really has a great potential in the next 5 to 10 years. And this is one of the reasons I think students, if you're looking into, you may not need to join it right away, but you can go into business. There's a business side of arts and cultural sector. There's such wonderful opportunities right now. Despite AI, and because of AI, and because of technology, there's going to be a lot of wonderful opportunities ahead in this sector.
It's definitely great to hear. What about you, Jillian? Because you work in the education department for so long, and maybe you can give us sort of like an overview of what the arts and culture scene is like today.
Well, I would say my conclusion is that art and culture in Hong Kong is exploding. We can see that, like what Alice was saying. I mean, just this week we have a cultural summit, we have Art Central, we have Art Basel, a number of things. But what's important is, even looking at data, in Hong Kong, every year there are more than 8,000 cultural-related, arts and cultural-related activities in Hong Kong. I mean, just for Academy itself, I will boast a little bit that our employment of our, everybody is thinking performing artists, nobody wants them, they can't get a job. But for the Academy, the last year's data, actually over 94% of our graduates within 3 months actually gets a job. And the average job offer is 5 per graduate. They get 5 offers per graduate. So that's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So why? Because there's enough around even just this city. And obviously, some of them are able to go into mainland China and in Europe and mainly, and of course in Southeast Asia. So, and of course, we're looking at GBA as well. GBA is huge. Just Shenzhen itself is going to be opening, I think, 3 new venues in the next couple of years. So that the opportunities are absolutely there. So if you are thinking of pursuing the arts, performing arts, actually, don't be too scared about it. If this is something you absolutely want to do, it's your passion to go ahead with it. Really, I think you will find a lot of support and help from the local government, which is really pushing arts and culture at the moment. There's a lot of funding. There's funding, scholarships, etc., that you can actually apply for. So really, I see a lot of future in arts and culture. So although all the time, we're looking at technology, but technology now, we're talking about arts technology. And arts technology, what it is it used to be called media arts or media technology. What it is how technology can be connected to the arts or the art to technology, and how technology can enhance what we do creatively. It's not replacing the arts or your creative self. It's actually extending what you can do. So you still have traditional theater, traditional entertainment, visual arts, etc., but it means that you can now explore another realm altogether. So I think it's promising, and I have all the hopes in the world that we're going to see Hong Kong definitely as a very important hub, and for any of you who want to develop your career in the arts to have a very good future.
That's great to hear. And with Flora, I would like to also ask about the trend in terms of maybe its relations to Beijing as well, because I know that you are based in Beijing. And how do you see the relationship between Beijing and Hong Kong when it comes to arts developments?
Thank you. All of you are so young. Yeah, I come from the past. My father started the first Chinese to be the Urban Council chairman. It was all British people. Nothing against the British people. We love British people. Yes, but I think that time there was only one city hall. And now there's so many museums, and there's like over 50,000 seats per night for performing arts. So Hong Kong has come a long way, but we are so lucky because we've had the world culture coming to Hong Kong. Everyone brilliant, famous, has come to Hong Kong. And Hong Kong has been such an important bridge. But now we're transmitting this and able to use China. Because China, nothing has been open before. And now it's so open that you guys, this is called crossover lifestyle. I have an academic school in dance, philosophy, history, ballet, modern, any choreography. So it's even fashion because it's costume. So we tell students, I know you want to be a doctor. I want you, physicians, physics, everything major important. But if you can integrate that with AI, dance, performing arts, audiovisual, everything can be. So then you can have a few more careers. So nobody has one career. I was a poor little ballerina. My mom and dad thought, oh, she's going to be very poor because she just does ballet all day. But then I had to learn, because I was lucky to go to the Royal Ballet. You do everything. The first Chinese have to choreograph, have to do your own costumes, design your posters, everything, makeup. What do you want? What is the theme? So therefore, my father says, well, why don't you apply this to your life? So now in China, when I went in, there were no companies. I was the first Chinese. I did fashion, and I'll tell you about it later. From fashion to performing arts to education now, you just go and do it. It's got so much opportunity, so many opportunities all over China. So don't be scared to cross the border.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
lot of opportunities here, London, China, everywhere.
Absolutely. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the past, since you mentioned the past as well. I wanted to ask, because if I remember correctly, you mentioned that you studied at the Royal Ballet at the age of 9, and then back then there weren't a lot of, Chinese or Asian members in the Royal Ballet. What opportunities or challenges did you experience in the past? And I suppose I also want to extend this question to the rest of our speakers as well. What opportunities, weren't given back then that you see are available nowadays in terms of the, arts development career, things like that?
This is a true history. When I got in, I was the first Chinese girl. I mean, literally, the students would come and touch my hair, like, I said, I will not electrify you because my hair is black. But the fact is, at that time, there were no Chinese people in the Royal Ballet, okay? And I wanted to be a choreographer, and until today, there is no Chinese choreographers in the Royal Ballet. But it is a difficult thing because it's years and years of history that people bring forward. I was very creative. I wanted to do Chinese. Anything, because I have a family member in Indonesia and in South America. My dad is from South America, Guyana. We have ethnic things. So we are minorities since small, so I know how to integrate into mainstream. You have to break through into mainstream. Just going, living somewhere, don't do it. Knocking on doors, I'm just going to live in your country doing basic work. Don't do that. Be somebody, make a difference, integrate into mainstream. I had to do that. I couldn't speak Cantonese very well. I left too early. I couldn't speak Mandarin. I couldn't speak French when I went to Russia, Russian. Everything you have to learn. So I do feel there were no doors open. And you think there are more doors open? Yes, because you have to be the door opening, the key. You got to go and do AI. You got to go and learn many languages. I had to open all these companies because there were no companies that will understand our cross-cultural background. And Hong Kong people are very cross-cultural background people. So I think a lot of people coming to Hong Kong to study, to APA, and magnificent names. But we want to build Chinese inventors, Chinese choreographers, Chinese designers, artists, brilliant dancers that are all over the world now. So that's the same question. There are not much opportunities that you have to create it. You have to design it.
What about Gillian and Alice? Similar observation?
Well, my family has been in Hong Kong for generations, so I remember, certainly, in the 70s, and actually, not many people know about it, but I was desperate to be a dancer in those days. But my parents weren't too keen, I think, on sending me off, you know. I think your parents actually has the foresight of sending you off at 9, you know, at the age of 9. But by the time I was about 12 or 13, it was pretty clear that I'm not going to go in that direction in terms of dance. But I was really quite determined that my love for basically dance, film, drama, etc., that was in me, and that's actually what I wanted to do. What my parents didn't do, they did not push me into the arts, but I remember my father also told us girls, don't go into medicine because it's too tough, it's too hard. So my brothers went into medicine, like my father, but the three of us, the three girls, are all in the arts. So basically, we were discouraged to go into sciences. So that was great for me. So basically, when I did go to university, there was only one condition from my parents: get a degree. You know, in those days, that's what parents think about. You've got to have a degree. But in these days, it's no longer. I mean, there are so many opportunities, even programs in universities and colleges, in vocational training, etc., that could lead you to the same place that you want to be. So I think it's important that we don't think that, oh, you know, my DSE results weren't so great, my IB wasn't so great, or GCSE, oh, I have no future, I'm gonna, you know. Please don't think that way, because I've seen people who have gone into vocational training or even just go into apprenticeship who end up actually doing really, really well. I think that the important thing is what's in your heart, what you really want for yourself. I really believe it's a bit of a cliche, but where there's a will, there's a way. So you've got to know what you want and understand yourself and where your talents are, and try every opportunity to develop it. And I think that's extremely important. So what we weren't given in those days in the 70s or 80s is people always thought about, parents always put you into business or professions, you know, you've got to be an accountant or a doctor, a lawyer, or you fail, you know. It's not that. It's not that at all. I've seen people go into those professions because their parents want them to, and they don't do very well, and they're miserable all their lives. Or at the moment, in fact, it's quite a phenomenon at the Academy, is that we are seeing a lot of young people who finish their degree at other universities, such as in biology, in business, and even lawyers, you know, with a Hong Kong U degree in law, actually start with us again, because that's actually what they always wanted to do. So they've done what their parents wanted them to do, so they're willing to come back and start from year one in an undergraduate degree for 4 years to do what they love to do. So I would urge you to, you know, just know yourself and know there are many opportunities, whatever you want to do.
That's really wonderful advice, I think, talking about our own personal background, I was 10 years old when I immigrated to the States. I was born in Taiwan, and my parents, we immigrated to the States, and I was a minority, you know, kind of Flora was talking about it, and growing up in the US, not seeing a lot of Asians, you know, business as well as the arts or sports or anything, any of that. So I was always curious. And, you know, my role models, you know, actually the 70s, you guys are too young. But back then, when we would go to Chinatown, was go see Chinese movies or pick up magazines from, you know, from movie magazine or 老夫子. 老夫子 was what we grew up with, right? And so we had cultural influences. It was Chinatown. And so I was always looking for role models, Asian, anybody who looked like me in different businesses, whether it's arts, government, or whatever. And then I had the fortune of working for an organization in 2003, a group called Committee of 100, which is founded by Ian Pei and Yo-Yo Ma. These are Chinese Americans who have achieved prominence in their field. And that was when you realize you have prominent Chinese Americans or people who look like me in the arts, in business. I mean, and again, from 70s to the 2000s, right? Back then, you know, it was, yeah, Bruce Lee or Deng Lijun or Teresa Teng. I mean, those were the only ones that, you know, but now look at what you guys are looking at. You're watching BTS, the Korean, the K-pops, the K-waves, the Japanese manga. I mean, so if you think about the influence, I mean, Asia, I think in the West anyway, it's like we're no longer the other. Used to be, I think, you know, we were the other. We weren't cool. In fact, it was really nerdy to be Asian, right? When we were going to, but now it's really cool. Our culture, whether it's Chinese culture, Asian culture, or you know, whatever. I was in Japan 2 weeks ago, and I went and spent 3 hours in Team Lab. I mean, my God, I mean, Asian culture is, you know, because of creativity. We've always had it. So one of the things we had to overcome was, like you said, along the way, convincing our parents or you know, pursue the arts and creativity and all of that. And I was so excited a year ago when, you know, watching the Oscar. This year, the Oscars, but who cares? Last year, I actually hosted an Oscar watch party at Asia Society. And Tan Dun's son, Sean, was interning for us. He helped us host it, right? And to see Asian, you know, people like Michelle, and then Tan Dun also winning the Oscar for composing. Once you start seeing people like me, like us, like, you know, Ang Lee was one of my first, you know, again, I don't know if you guys were there when Crouching Tiger won the Oscar. Again, we don't need that validation. Hong Kong, growing up, Hong Kong was always the cultural hub for Asia, right? I mean, I grew up in Taiwan watching a movie made in Hong Kong, whether it's in Mandarin or in Cantonese. I mean, Hong Kong was like Bollywood of its day. And, you know, somewhere along the way, we kind of started focusing more on the finance. But we always had that DNA. And what I find really interesting right now, the most popular TV show right now, the streaming, Shanghai Blossom, is directed by Wong Kar-wai, right? Everybody's talking about it, right? So, and even the West is talking about it. So I just feel like right now, compared to when we were growing up, there's so much more opportunity. Netflix is doing things that are Asian themed. And so for when I look at young people, when I look at opportunity, don't box yourself in. You're not just somebody from Hong Kong. You're from Asia. You have creative talent. Think big. And I only could think big growing up in the United States. And you guys, Hong Kong is part of China, one country, two system. You are Chinese. I'm Chinese. I'm Chinese American. I'm very proud of my bilingual, my bicultural. So when you think big, then the opportunity is there. But when you think small, then, like, again, I admire a lot of the Japanese, the creative talents. Again, Team Lab. I mean, again, it's not about language, it's about creativity. And we all have it. But it's just sometimes our parents, yes, sometimes you do have to do what your parents say. And if I did what my parents wanted me to do, I would have been miserable computer scientist. And this is 70s, computer science, or 80s. I'm not interested in computers. But I didn't pursue that, but I did go into government. I also went into a private sector. I got my EMBA. And now my third career is arts management. And so another thing, what Jillian said is so true. I have one of my best friends. She wanted to be a lawyer all her life, Chinese American, her parents, she wanted to be a lawyer. And by the time she became a lawyer, she was a corporate lawyer for about a good 20 years before she decided law was boring. She did not enjoy it as much as she thought. So she went to, she's right now in London getting her third degree, Goldsmith. I think she did SOAS. And so now you guys have choices that maybe some of us didn't have before. And choices is up to you to decide. And again, business is not a bad way to get started. One thing I really would love to see universities or here is like, you can't change careers. It's okay to change careers, right? Nowadays, in fact, when we hire young people, every 2 years or 1 year they're changing. That's not a habit I like, but you guys know what you want, also what we've gone through with COVID. But changing careers and changing is okay. but you still need to have solid fundamentals, whether it's, a journalism career or know how to write, know how to think. I think the age of AI, I really think it's a wonderful opportunity, but you still need to think. You need to create with AI. It's not, your world is not going to be taken over by AI. You're going to be part of that. So I really do think now, think of the possibilities, think of the big picture, and then see what you can contribute to that big picture.
Yeah, so I've been given the instruction to, give more opportunities for our students to ask questions here. So I'm just going to be speaking. Oh, hold on 1 second. I'm just going to be asking 2 more questions, and then I'll open the floor to students. So get your questions ready. I wanted to ask first Flora about, your career change, because we've been talking a lot about adapting to the times and, adapting to changes in different eras and how to craft our career. Your career looks very fascinating to me because you started as a ballet dancer and then you moved on to becoming, an entrepreneur. So I wanted to ask you about how you feel about, is there, say for example, enough support systems in Hong Kong that help people, say for example, artists who want to change their career and vice versa for people who want to join the arts and culture industry? That is a question that's also extending to the rest of our speakers. But in order to save time, if we can sort of sum up our questions a little bit more quickly.
Right from the start, it's not my choice to change careers, okay? The fact is I went to a professional dance school. It's like Olympics. You just dance all day. You do normal academics, but it's all dance creative related, from the history of ballet, dance, different movements, and we do the Italian style, Cicchetti. We do Vaganova style. We do the Royal Ballet style. We didn't have Chinese dance, but we have so much creative, Hawthorne and Martha Graham, all the contemporary choreographers we have to understand, and the costumes and makeup, and how do you make ballet shoes, it's just incredible. You have to be a one-man band, and on top of it, you get nothing to eat, you've got to be on a diet, and you've got to suffer. You have to love bleeding toes when you're pirouetting. But to make a long story short, when I started with Hong Kong Ballet, there was only 5 people in the Hong Kong Ballet. The founders, and then we had to do dancing, we have to choreograph, we have to do the posters, we have to sell tickets, we have to promote ourselves. And now it's like one of the best companies in the world. Honestly, when I went to China, my mother's from China. I absolutely did not find a PR company. This is like 30 years ago. So I have to go and invent this PR company, that our style. To do arts and culture is very important to the spirit because it hits you, mind, body, and soul, and gives you a taste of what the best is. If you want to design your career, you have to know how to design yourself. But if you don't do arts and culture, it's not about, I must be that. You have to have that eye, that understanding of emotions. How do I listen to this music? How do I judge this painting? How do I watch a ballet? If you don't study it, you're absolutely just sitting there, oh, it's boring. Then you are not living world. The world is living you, just as a job. Go and find a job. Be a doctor. Then it's very dry. But anyway, going back to this idea of integration, arts and culture, for me, it's a must. You must live with pluralistic aims in life and not just to do one thing. Yeah? So change is inevitable. Crisis will never leave us. And go and do the unknown. Learn something new every day. Don't stop. Be stuck to one thing. Now I have 35 companies. Do I want to do that? No. I have to, because Chinese government says, oh, you can't do 10 schools under one license. You've got to go to it. Every city I'm in, you've got to have your license. And I did that. And then now I have, oh, we've changed again. Now every area, you've got to have a company. So therefore, I have another company. You have the shoe company, because nobody else can make the shoes you want, because our taste level is different. So by the time I get a PR company, the whole show will be dead. It's no good. So you got to build your PR company. You got to build your costume design section. So end up, you have to go into changing something and not having to get a PhD and then do it. Yeah? Reinvent yourself.
Right, I mean, absolutely right. You know, a change is inevitable, particularly in education, because, you know, the Academy is coming up to our 40th anniversary next year. But this is exactly it. Are we still, do we still have the same program as 1984? Absolutely not. I mean, every few years, of course, we are looking at it. We are constantly reviewing our curriculum and programs. Why? Because we are not just there to, okay, for you to come and, you know, get into a classroom. That's not the goal of any educational institution. The goal of educational institutions is to make sure that graduates actually have the skill and the knowledge to actually survive in the world. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about our graduates getting the right jobs and being able to develop their career in the way they want to. So, I mean, over all these years, you know, and we've been changing our curriculum, we've been changing structures, etc. And we can see our graduates from being followers, they're now really aspiring to leaders. And that's what we want to look at. That's what we want to see. Obviously, in the first 10 years, we're still graduating people. We don't know where they're going to go in 10 years' time. But now we do. You know, after 40 years, we have many of our graduates in senior positions, and they don't always stay in the same thing. We might have a lighting designer who ends up being a production manager. We may have props students, for instance, who end up going into pyrotechnics, you know, and you wonder what happened there. But the most important thing is that while you're a student, you learn as much as possible. But don't think that if you are an actor, you're going to be an actor the rest of your life. It doesn't always happen. And of course, you have a much longer lifespan than probably even us here. So, you know, maybe you'll change career completely, but don't be afraid of it, and do take risks. You know, don't be reckless about it, but, you know, if there's something you see that you see you can adapt from your original career, and is something you'd love to try and do, it's not impossible, because people have done it before you. Many people have. And for myself, for instance, I went from thinking about, as a teenager, being a dancer, to getting into the entertainment industry eventually, in theater, in film, thinking of being a director, having done some directing, and then going into design. I've actually made a lot of changes over my years, right up till I went fully into education. So I had no idea when I was a teenager, or even when I was 20 years old, that I would end up being a teacher and end up being, you know, a principal of an educational institute. That has never entered my mind. So there will be, you will get there. But don't be worried about it. You know, when the time comes and that opportunity comes, is whether you want to take that direction or not. And for me, it's been opportunities falling in my lap, and it's for me to think at that moment, do I go in this direction or I stay where I am? And it's been like this year after year. I could have rejected this position that I am now if I'm too scared of it, you know. Do I really want to take this responsibility? But it's at that moment that, with all the pros and cons and the love and the passion you have for what you do, that actually drives you into that decision a lot of times. Nobody has to tell you. You have to tell yourself.
I think right now for me, you know, I said I have 3 careers, and I've been in the nonprofit arts and cultural sector for the last 20 years. And I think very much similar to Julian, I give myself 3 to 5 years guidelines. I kind of have a sense of direction. Again, when I was a kid, even when I was 20, I did not to say where I'm going to be here right now as president of Asia Society. What is Asia Society? So I think for me, my goal was always 3 to 5 years. And that's how I am in Hong Kong, 92. I arrived in Hong Kong for a job, a state government job, and I said, if I fail, I'll go back to Ohio, 3 to 5 years, 3 to 5 years. But then it's kind of like a step. 3 to 5 years comes around, all right, oh, that opportunity is there. So, and many of you, Wizard of Oz, I use that, that's become my analogy these days. I'm Dorothy. I'm following the yellow brick road, and along the way, I meet Scarecrow, I meet the lion or whatever. And in some ways, that's the analogy I use. You need, in a career, sometimes you need a bit of head, brain, you need a heart, and you need courage. So along the way, I think of, I'm Dorothy, with my Toto, okay? Where do I go? And finally, when I sometimes get there, it's this dream career, you tear the the curtain behind. The wizard, not what you think, right? But it's the journey. So for me, that has always been what I guided me is like, all right, where do I want to be 3, 5 years down? Well, am I learning? Am I growing? And I have to say this sector is where I've been growing, and I'm still learning. And it's really, it allows you to grow. And I think they've even said now, to present Alzheimer, I think we have doctors here, it is continued learning, whether it's learning a new language, learning dance, learning. And lifelong learning, that's something you guys probably know all about. It's not just you get your degree done, get a job, and that's the end of it. It's always going to be that continuous journey. So it's a journey, not the destination.
I think that's actually a really good way to end our talk with. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on the arts and culture scene. And time now for our Dorothys to ask some questions. I remember that was this first student who raised up her hand, so maybe we can start with that.
Hi, you guys are so cool. Thank you for sharing your story. But I genuinely think that there is too much positivity surrounding entering the entertainment industry. Oh wow, there's arts, there's culture, we get to spread a story, everything's really good. But nobody really talks about the downsides of it, particularly the harshness of the entertainment industry, especially with being one of the first few Asian women to enter this industry, being at intersectional discrimination of being a woman and being Asian. Can I just ask about what hardships you faced and what was your motivating factor for having this tenacity? Thank you very much.
For me, mentors. You can't do it alone. And that's why try to convince your family and your parents to support you. And in the beginning, they may not. But if you keep on at it, they will support you because they love you. But mentors, I've always had mentors along the way. And if there's any difficulty and all that, I can call them. And I still have my first mentor is still my best friend. She's retired. I can still call her in San Francisco. So having people there, and sometimes it's your friends, and that's something I think young people, all of us, you're not alone. You can call people and find people along the way there to help you so that it is going to be difficult. And it's not just entertainment. Any industry, I think we all have gone through it as women, and it's not just women, men too. I have a lot of friends who grew up in the state, Asian American men discrimination, and it's not just the West. We have discrimination here as well, right? So along the way, find allies and find mentors. That's how I've gone through.
Well, I would agree. Do we go through this?
If you want to.
Take another question.
Do you want to? Sure. We can also open the floor to other questions. We'll go from that side first.
So hello, that was a very insightful talk. I'm Sunny Poon from Pui Kiu College, and the question I would like to ask is that, do you think that Chinese, Eastern culture in general is gaining prominence in the West because Western art is going downhill, it's getting stale? Like, take Hollywood, for instance, as Ms. Wong said, no one cares about the Oscars anymore. And people only watched it last year because Will Smith slapped someone. So though there are, every once in a while, there are genuine gems like Oppenheimer, but for every Oppenheimer, there's at least one Morbius. Thank you.
yeah, maybe nobody cares about the Oscar awards itself, but well, if I ask all of you, do you go to movies? I'm sure you do, right? I mean, you watch TV all the time, you're on Netflix, etc. So the film industry is thriving. It's actually doing very well. And I'm glad to say that, I'm happy to say that in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong film industry is seeing a revival as well. And the Hong Kong government is putting a lot of money into it. There are huge fundings now, you know, particularly in the last policy address, if you bother to read it. It actually has a lot of support in arts and culture, and particularly the pop culture and also film industry. So the industry is thriving. So I think, and we can see that certainly Asia is slightly, you know, taking over as well. I mean, the tension is there. Whereas, you know, even 10 years ago, I don't think we have the same attention. Everybody is looking for Hollywood, but no longer. Hollywood is not the only place. And we see with the Oscars last year, for instance, we see Asians winning Oscars, much more going in that direction as well.
I wanted to add, it's not either or. It's not Western culture versus Asian culture. I have to say it's an and. I believe in and. Because Hollywood now is realizing you need Asian, you know, audience, half the world or more than half the world. So I think it's and. It's not. I right now get really cringe when I say, oh, East is rising, West is dead. I totally do not describe. I think it's you need both. You need both. And my wonderful analogy is, and you mentioned Hong Kong Ballet. Hong Kong Ballet has that. You have diversity. And I think the West is realizing you need diversity to thrive. And my favorite orchestra, Hong Kong Phil, and my friends send me, and I look at how many people from all, like there's 20 countries that are Hong Kong Phil musicians, and they are one of the best in Asia, if not the world, one of the best in Asia, the best in Asia. So when you ask that question, it's not either or, it's and. We need both. And because of this either or construct, it drives me crazy because we're not fighting. Arts and culture, there's no borders. So.
Yeah, I think arts and culture is absolutely international. It has to be. There's a global phenomenon as well. You look at the festivals and everything around the world. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's east or west. You're there. I mean, look at this. If it isn't because of, you know, Eastern and Western institutions coming together, we won't have this forum here. You won't all be here. So it's about this kind of international collaboration that makes us all, whether you're from the East or West, stronger, and giving more opportunities to old and young, really, and to the creative world.
We'll take a question from that side of the audience.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Anissa, and I'm from Union Institute No. 3 Secondary School. And I have a question for Dr. Flora. As you just mentioned that you faced a lot of challenge in the past, but we all know that the society keeps changing. So in your perspective, what do you think that the new generation may face, the challenge they may face if they join the art and creative industries right now?
I think you can look at it like this. Life is like a clock. From 12 to 3, it's your main job. You study to become who you want to be, who you think you want to be. Then from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, maybe you actually can make some money doing something else that does not need you to be there. So you can cover your back, you know. And from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, you have to look after your family. Then, from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, you actually can go for your dreams. Have any dream, design, arts and culture, be a movie star, sing. You know, anything that's one thing anymore. A long, long time ago, women had bound feet. We couldn't go out. Now, our partners, we are cyborgs. I cannot live without my computer. We are competing with the computer How do you think we can only choose one or two things, we humans? Is that a bit silly? There are so many things you just switch on and off, on and off. And my daughter has like 10 computers going on, answering the phone and cooking, writing a check, telling the kids, grandchildren. Can you imagine? Life is not that simple. But on the other hand, you are so lucky. You can tap onto so many things. All movies in the world must have every cast in there, depending on what budget. It's from Canadian budget, Canadians, but gotta have Koreans, Japanese, Chinese. Box office, what drives traffic? People. So I think it's a different world. We are from the old world, where we can have 1 or 2 or 3, every 5 years change a career. I was forced into all these careers. And I was forced into changing governments. London, New York. Oh, my visa went out. Oh, now you can have 2 passports. Oh, every day something is happening, isn't it? So I think it's such an exciting time. Suffer, learn to suffer. I suffered dancing. I think that's my ability to fight. And stand up when you have lost everything, still go. And I think that willpower will enable you to do more things. Don't do one thing. I mean, that's not possible now, isn't it? So I hope I answered your question.
We have a question from the very back of the audience.
So recently I have a concern about most students being confined in Hong Kong. They may be under the illusion that only academic results can lead to success, which is in no way the truth. And so for the development of the art of students who are studying, how can they develop art holistically with limited resources, as well as those people who are in poverty to study art, because it actually costs a lot of money while learning art. Thank you so much.
You know, when I was in the Royal Ballet School, it was a boarding school, but I came out because I love design so much. I used to make these old jeans, go and get old jeans and cut out and make cats and dogs and design and sew and go to Carnaby Street and sell it. And then I'd go and, Mom and Dad got this little place. I used to go and get all the antique laces and buy trees and all, to make it look nice. So I said, oh, I was very able to make a little money. So you have to, everything's expensive, but you have to work. I did 4 or 5 jobs because my father was the person who gave education to promote free education in Hong Kong, public education, and he looked after the poorest people. So now I have a charity, I help these kids to give them jobs. You have to study and do jobs. Don't just study, because my parents never told us, we pay for your education, we give you money to buy clothes and everything, but you have to pay us back. It's a loan. I bet you your parents don't say that. Honey, you have everything. I will sell my house for you, everything. No, we weren't taught that way. Everything I went to the Royal Ballet, it was so expensive. I said, oh no, if I can't be a ballerina, I will do nothing. I have to pay them back. So I've got to do bits and pieces. And then I grew my habit of making things, learning a skill, cultivating myself, learning how to act. Any role. I fit myself into a dress so I can model. I can do everything. You have to try. You've got to have the guts. And that's all I can say. Work and live, study, and do charity as well, because that's when you build. You are also lucky here. I go to China, I have 100 of these kids. All the parents, either they have no parents, the parents are in prison with death sentences, or they only have a few more months to live, and they have no money. And we teach them arts and culture, performing arts, They can't study. They have no one to love them. How can they go and be a doctor? They do the basic, but they have to work. If I don't look after them, they clean toilets. If I look after them, they can learn some craft, arts and craft. They can do sets. They can make believe they have a job, learn computer. So do something not just for yourself. Think about others at the same time. You will value your life a bit more. Yes?
And that's all the time we have for this session. Thank you so much for joining the audience, and please give a round of applause for our speakers today.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank our moderator, Ms. Sabrina Low, our panelist, Dr. Flora Cheng Lin, Professor Jillian Choi, and as Alice Mong for your insights. Today we learned about the importance of collaboration, and not all. It's not art or technology. It's not Chinese or Eastern versus Western. It's not day job versus your hobbies. We should all pursue our hobbies in addition to our day jobs. Now, may we invite our chairlady, Sandy Lau, to present the thank you certificates to our moderator and our panelists. At the same time, may I invite all our founders of London Bowl Foundation and committee and subcommittees to take a photo with us.